So that's really the iconic centre, although it's the centre of the Georgian part of Bath. So if we go on from that, now this particular slide, you might recognise somebody in it, is a slide from a talk that I gave, a presentation that I gave in December 2019 to a group of postgrad students from Westminster University. They were studying event management. And as you can see, I said, well, our next one is in 2020. But little did I know, or did any of us know, that 2020 festival just didn't happen. It would have been our 20th anniversary, and it just stopped. We had to cancel everything. That was very sad. I went on furlough, as lots of people did, and we also lost some contributors, and one of those, the most important one possibly, was Owen Benson, who is responsible for a lot of the photographs you will see here, and also for the 2 video clips. Hopefully I shall have time to, well, I will show them to you anyway. I'll just be quiet myself and you'll see the video clips. Is there any way I can make us smaller here? Because I've got...
How do you have yourself set up? If you go to the top right corner, there's a view button and you can select several different views.
There's a grid video, show small active speaker video, hide thumbnail video. That probably would be good. That's better.
Okay.
All right. Oh, I can't get there in a minute. Anyway, I don't know if that will make note. Ah, there we are. Go back to that. That's better. Right. Okay, so now we've got, so where did it all begin? How it all began? The Jane Austen Centre opened in 2000. So in these particular videos, these slides here, you've got the photograph on the left is the early days, and the actual statue outside is just a dummy wearing a dress. And then in the middle one, the dummy has become solidified, and to the right-hand side is the man who was responsible for everything. Dave Baldock, who's the owner of the Jane Austen Centre and the man that started the Jane Austen Festival. The timeline for the Jane Austen Centre is it was incorporated in 1998, opened to the public in 1999. As you can see, we offered walking tours to start off with Bath, and that was to get people out of the city centre to the Jane Austen Centre in Gay Street. Then some of you may know of Jane Austen's Regency World magazine. That was started by David Baldock in 2000. And then in 2001, we had the first Jane Austen Festival was organised. Now, the Jane Austen Centre is in a Georgian townhouse, and it is 5 stories high. And this is the very top floor. Basically, you've got the basement, then above the basement is what we call the ground floor, then the first floor, the second floor, and then in the very top floor, the garret, which is what you see here. This is a view from the window, and the view from the window of the festival office looks at the bottom of the gravel walk, which appears in the book Persuasion. So why did Dave Baldock come up with the idea of a festival celebrating Jane Austen? Well, basically, he had to think about things like, would there be an audience for it? Would it be worth doing? But there are a lot of things that say why we should have done a Jane Austen festival, and these are that in 2000, in the year 2000, was not very much going on in Bath in September. That's changed. There's quite a lot goes on in Bath now in September. Jane Austen herself, the author, is famous worldwide, as we know, because I'm talking to you in the States. And she's also famous in Japan, in Russia, all over the world. There's a very loyal fan base. I mean, I first read Jane Austen when I was just 16 and loved all her, well, it's easy to read her books, only 6 of them, but loved it ever since, and I've read them several times over. Her books are on examination syllabus in the UK, at least. And there have been many, many adaptations of her works. Now, in the year 2000, of course, the 1995 BBC production of Pride and Prejudice was very new. The other thing that was very important is that Austen has got lots of links with Bath. And, of course, Bath is a charming place. Austen said that herself in Northanger Abbey. The strong links with Bath that Austen has was her parents were married there at St Swithin's Church, which is in the Walcott district of Bath, and that's the upper part of the city. When I call it the upper part of the city, the lower part is where Bath Abbey is, and that's the old medieval city, and the Georgian city is up the hill, where there's an assembly rooms, which is just a large building, but you'll see some of that in a bit. So her aunt and uncles, two aunts and uncles, that's her mother's brother and also her mother's sister, they both lived in Bath. Her mother's brother bought a house in Great Pulteney Street. Her brother, Edward Knight, came to Bath for medicinal purposes. Edward Knight, his surname's Knight because he was adopted. He changed his name from Edward Austen to Edward Knight. And the first Duke of Chandos employed the local architect John Wood to build his own house, Chandos Buildings. So you could almost say the Austens and the Duke of Chandos was Jane Austen's great uncle on her mother's side. So you could almost say the Austens, or rather the Lees as they were, Jane's mother, were in on the building of Bath. Jane Austen herself was born in Hampshire, but she visited Bath at least twice, one in 1797 and 1799. Those are the documented visits, which highly likely that she actually visited more than that. And she moved to Bath to live in 1801 until 1806. Two of her novels, Northanger Abbey and Persuasion, are set in Bath. All of her novels, and including the epistolary novel Lady Susan, they have sections, all of them refer to Bath at some point. Her father and her grandfather are both buried at St Swithin's Church. And there's no doubt that Austen knew the city extremely well. And some of the places that she stayed, or rather that she lived in, are these. She moved about quite a bit. She visited and stayed at 1 Paragon Buildings, and she also stayed at 13 Queen Square. She lived at 4 Sydney Place, she lived at Green Park Buildings, she lived at 25 Gay Street, and she lived at Trim Street. So those are all in the city, and then they're all sort of varying. Trim Street was not the most delectable place to live, but that was the last place they lived in. In those days, it was very cramped and dirty and not a nice place to live in the city. So, as I say, she knew a lot about Bath. Another reason for choosing Jane Austen is perhaps what was known as the Darcy effect. The most famous of her novels, of course, is Pride and Prejudice. And even if nobody's read it, they probably have heard of it. And if they haven't heard of Pride and Prejudice, they possibly have heard of Darcy. And in 2005, there was another production of Pride and Prejudice, which is probably better known to some of the younger generations, some of those in their sort of 20s and 30s, the Keira Knightley and Matthew McFadden version of Pride and Prejudice. And perhaps the best known first line of any novel is, "It is a truth universally acknowledged that a single man in possession of a good fortune must be in want of a wife." Lots going for why Jane Austen Festival ought to be successful in Bath. We were lucky enough over the period that I've been with the festival to have all of these people at various productions. In the top left, you've got Adrian Lucas, and then below him, Joanna David. To Joanna's right is Crispin Bonham Carter, and then above him is the director Simon Langton, and to the right of him is Susanna Harker, who's Jane Bennet, of course, and then Benjamin Whitrow, who was Mr. Bennet. That's a by the by, really. Here's back to what we were talking about, which is the 20 years of the Jane Austen Festival. The very first Jane Austen Festival, as you can see, took place on the 28th to the 30th of September in 2001. There are some people that have been involved in it ever since. Bath Parade Guides, who do our walking tours, and Jane Tapley, who opens up her house, which is a lovely house where she provides breakfasts and afternoon teas and does a talk about all sorts of, very knowledgeable lady. And she's actually the events organizer at the Theatre Royal in Bath. So she she knows an awful lot about Bath. In that very first festival, we had the honour of having Amanda Root. Now, the BBC version of Persuasion was out in 1995, so again, fresh in everybody's minds. And Amanda Root did a lovely talk after the film was shown at the Little Theatre here in the centre of Bath. She has been a great supporter of the festival and came back in, I think, twice after that as well. And yeah, lovely lady. Timeline of the festival is, as you can see, 2001. It was extended the very next year to 9 days. We had a Regency costume promenade. I'll tell you a little bit more about that in a moment. And costumes were worn in 2005. We were filmed in 2008. There have been 4 directors. So David Baldock did it from 2001 to 2002. Then there was Sue Hughes, 2003 to 2006. Dave Lassman did it just for, well, if you can call it, did it, provided it in 2007. I took over from him in 2007. My first festival was in 2008, and my last one was this year in 2021. I'm now officially a past director. This gives you an idea, these figures. I thought you might be interested in these to see how it's grown. And the interesting thing is that the most attendances were in 2013, most promenaders were in 2017, and most festival friends were in 2017. Now, I did actually put the 2021 figures, not the performance figures, because they were down and not really representative, but the promenader tickets that we sold this year were 402, which is not that much down from 2019 and more than 2018. And we had 180 friends, which is quite phenomenal, really, because it's second to the most in 2017. So that's fantastic support that we absolutely desperately needed after not having a festival last year. Of course, with Bicentenary Anniversaries, and we probably all remember these, in 2013, it was the bicentenary of the publication of Pride and Prejudice, and that was our largest audience. There was so much hype about Pride and Prejudice, obviously everybody's favourite novel and of Austen's, and that is why our attendance was high. And then, of course, 2017, most friends, was because of the commemoration of Austen's death. So those were the reasons for those higher figures in those particular years. Now, for anybody that's never heard of the Jane Austen Festival, they might have heard of people that walk through the streets of Bath, and I'm talking about the locals, not internationally. They might say, oh yeah, you're that lot that walk through the streets. You're the ones that dress up. If you say festival or Jane Austen, they say you're the ones that dress up and walk through the streets and you stop the traffic. Well, it's only been since 2013 that we've actually had to have street closures. The very first promenade, and the promenade is just literally everybody getting together in costume and walking through the streets. But of course, Bath is a working city, so you have to close the streets if you have a lot of people. And you see me on the left-hand side chatting to these guys, and they really are amazing. They run around putting out signs, directing traffic, redirecting traffic away from us, and they keep us safe. In 2019, the promenade started from Sydney Gardens for the first time, and we did that again this year in 2021. We started from outside the Holborn Museum, which is at the end of Great Pulteney Street. And you see the gentlemen on the right-hand side, a 33rd Regiment of Foot, they are. And they led us for the first, well, they led us in 2019. Now, I'd like to show you this little video clip, which is of the promenade. It gives you a much better idea than anything that I could explain. And there might be somebody you can spot in this that you know. Okay. Let's hope it works. Go. What's happening? I want to go. Ah. No, I didn't. Oh, it says stop. Oh, I know why. Oh, crumbs. Oh, that's annoying.
It does say at the bottom, cannot play media on
That's it.
the bar, at least what I'm seeing right now, cannot play media on your video.
Right. No, I wonder why it's not doing that. Oh dear. Well, that's annoying. That's something I haven't done.
Do you have the video elsewhere on your computer or desktop that you can share with us? I'm sure all of us are willing to wait.
Let's see. Yes, I should have. That's, yeah. Oh, I got the Promenade. Oh, I know there's something I didn't do. Oh, sorry about this.
Is this the one that was posted on Facebook?
Yeah, it is.
Let me see while you do that. I'm going to see if I can minimize mine and pull it up from Facebook and share it from mine real quick.
Right. Yeah, I've got it embedded in another PowerPoint because I've changed computers.
Okay. I will look through and see if I can find it on here real quick and see if I can share it from my screen. See if I can find videos. Is this from 2019?
It is from 2019, yes.
I have it right here. Okay.
Do you? Right, great.
Let me pause
So
this.
if you want,
let me go ahead and minimize. I'll see if I can share my screen real quick.
right.
And okay, it's going to stop sharing your screen for a moment.
Okay.
And let me go to here, share this. Let me pull it up for everybody.
Platoon! Halt! Ladies and gentlemen! Either side, form up at the front. So you have to make a decision this early in the morning. Divide and form up at the front, one side or the other. Oh, wonderful! Ladies and gentlemen, be pleased to close up. Thank you very much.
Hello again. Okay, got it. Very Jane Austen.
Yeah, no, it's not proper now. You can walk your lady.
There we
Sorry.
go.
Sorry. Okay.
Look there.
There we are.
Right. I've been looking it up. I still don't know what it was that I can't do, but anyway. There we go. So in 2009, we achieved.
Do you want to share your screen again?
Oh, am I not doing it?
No, not yet.
Oh heavens. What's happened there? Oh dear. Let's come out of that. See that. Right. Share screen. There we go.
Wonderful.
Share. There we go. Okay. So in 2009, we decided that as we had got to quite a reasonable number of people, that we'd have a go at the largest gathering of people dressed in Regency costume. And we did achieve it at 409, which was quite amazing. And that's us in the assembly rooms. Cool. There we go. The festival has been filmed several times and has firsts going on. 2004, Gurinder Chadha's Bride and Prejudice. The premiere for that took place in Bath at the Little Theatre as part of the festival. The London premiere of it came afterwards. Country File, a BBC programme filmed at the festival. I think it's only because, I mean, it's generally about country, but we had something called a country fair and a country dance, and I think that's why they came to us. Professor Amanda Vickery, I don't know if anybody knows of her, she's written some fabulous books. She filmed Many Lovers of Miss Jane Austen, and then we also had MasterChef. And the MasterChef, for them, we had to provide a small promenade, and you can see in the top picture some of the promenaders. That's on the Crescent lawn, that's in front of the Royal Crescent. They had to cook in marquees and present us with a lovely dinner, a lovely lunch rather. And then the following night, I was really privileged to go to the Royal Crescent Hotel and be cooked for by the participants of the MasterChef. And it was at that dinner that I met Richard Knight, who's direct descendant of one of Jane Austen's brothers. And also I met Adrian Lucas, who was, of course, Mr. Wickham in the 1995 version of Pride and Prejudice. We've also recently had Giles Corran. I don't know if he's a name that you know, but he produced a Sky Arts programme, Passions, and this particular one was about Jane Austen, and he had to learn to dance. And this is during our summer ball, which was held in the Guildhall. There's lots of dancing in the Jane Austen Festival. lots and lots. In 2011, we had the first masked ball. On the left-hand side, we're being quite sedate and serious, and on the right-hand side, you can see John White in his lovely yellow waistcoat, and behind him is Georgia Delve, who deals with the social aspect or the social media side, or up until this year has dealt that. I'm not sure what's going to happen next year because I'm not involved in it. But the masked ball is at one of the most costly events. It's the most costly event because of where it is held. We have a reception by the Roman Baths. Here's somebody you might know. And that, as you can see, is absolutely beautiful. It's very atmospheric. We start at 7 o'clock, so it's just starting to get dark. Have a drink by the side of the Roman Baths as somebody's singing, and then we'll have an hour down there, and then go upstairs to the pump room. It's beautiful 18th century assembly area. It's just a large room where you can taste the waters in Bath as well, because we have natural hot spring waters in Bath. This might be slightly familiar, and you're there as well, Emily. We dance in the pump room, and it's just so amazing place to do it, and somewhere that they used in Jane Austen's time. That was the most expensive of our events. The cheapest one is the free public readings that we've held at the library since 2013. And here you see, this is the 2013 one, was to celebrate Pride and Prejudice. So it was very easy to get lovely readers for this. These two actors, and of course him. This is the picture of the people looking, or rather listening to Pride and Prejudice being read. And this lovely lady, Maggie Oliver Shaw, who's local to Bath. And it's just such great fun. It's basically an hour a day at lunchtime, reading through all the books. We didn't do it this year. It just was not possible to do in the remains of a pandemic. It was just not possible to do this year. But how do you decide what you're going to do or what you're going to put on, or actually how you're going to do a festival? So here's some ideas, or this is how our minds think. We decide on the events, and you decide on the events as to who is going to be the audience. We obviously are going to be people who like Jane Austen. And basically, we're all fans of Jane Austen. So is it something we want to attend? Would we pay for it? I mean, we do have a lot of different people suggesting all sorts of things that we might like to do. And quite a lot of them actually get into the festival. There's not that many that we don't have in the festival, but sometimes we have things that don't go down that well. Venues, what sort of, the most recent thing I could say to you that has been suggested is that we might like the opera of Mansfield Park. Now, I like opera and I quite like Mansfield Park, but I know there's quite a lot of people that don't. And also to put on an opera is quite a lot of money. So we're not doing it yet, but maybe in the future they'll do it. Sort of things that work: dancing, costume, food, any sort of dressing up, and anything not Austen doesn't. And the very fun bit about the Jane Austen Festival is the costume side of it. This is going back a bit. John White, very much slimmer. Martin, very much slimmer. Everybody a bit younger and slimmer. These are some other participants in 2008. These ladies come from the States, I know. She comes from Wales. This is held in the Jane Austen Centre as it was. We had what we called an at home with the Austens, bit of music, games, drinks, all sorts of things. Party, bit of a party there. And then in 2009, this is part of the Guinness World Record, and people participating in that. And me looking somewhat younger too. This is my son. He's now 24. I hope you can see my pointer, but he's 24, and he's got a beard, so he's a bit older than that now. In 2016, we've got some lovely productions in 2016. These are some lovely lady in the middle there from Cosprop, John White being the resurrectionist, production on the bottom right hand corner of Pride and Prejudice by a lovely group from Australia, and also Natural Theatre Company in an Austen Dilemma in the top right hand corner. In 2017, we were very lucky to have Ben Whitrow take part in an evening with Mr. Wickham. And Ben Whitrow, it was actually his last performance, because within I think it might have been 3 weeks, he was no longer with us, he'd passed away. So we were so lucky to have him at the Jane Austen Festival that year. This lady, Karen Oterovich, she comes from New York, and she produces a lovely program called Cheer from Chawton. And she did that at the Mission Theatre, which is a small theatre in Bath, which was an old church. And then we used the Mission a lot from 2011. We used it for all sorts of productions. It was very convenient, very neat, very cozy theatre with a car park opposite, very easy to get to. Everybody got, and you can put on small productions there for not too much money, and it makes everything a bit more within the pocket. And so we've had some productions: Boxtail Soup, Aardvark, and Pride and Prejudice by two-bit classics, just to name some of them. We've had a Regency Wedding. There have been loads and loads of people have proposed. There was a proposal even in this year, and there was one in 2020 on a small promenade that some of the locals got together just to walk through the streets of the city in September. Just a few of them, I think, because you couldn't have more than 30 people together, so there weren't very many of them, but they kept under the 30 just, I think. And one lady was proposed to by what is her husband. So this Regency Wedding, it was absolutely glorious, lovely day, lovely couple. Unfortunately, once they got married, it didn't even last a year, which is a bit sad, but it was a lovely spectacle. We've used all sorts of venues: 13 Queen Square, where Jane Austen stayed, Jolly's department store, well, she didn't stay there, but St Swithin's Church is in the middle there. At home with the Austens, as I mentioned a bit earlier on. We had a 10th anniversary, of course, in Want of a Wife, is in the bottom right-hand corner, those people with their red noses on. It was completely no speaking at all, so it was totally mime, but it was great fun, and that was in the Guildhall. And then the Dandy Chargers. Now, those are on Bone Shakers, those particular cycles, and you've got Dancing with Diana Campbell, Holborn Museum. Professor John Mullen, you may have heard of. He's written a brilliant book, What Matters in Jane Austen. Then audience participation, Language of the Fan, John White again with Select Society. He's a great character, that man. And the 2021 Jane Austen Festival did take place. I mentioned it earlier on. We had a wonderful time. The weather was gorgeous. Only one of the events had to be cancelled, and that was basically because it was going to make a horrendous loss, because we only had 9 people in the audience or who bought tickets, so we stopped that. But the festival would not be possible without marvellous volunteers. Now, there is putting the festival together. There was me. I worked 3 days a week, and I had Rachel Beswick, who worked once a month, and also Georgia, who did the social media, and that was it. So when it actually came to putting the festival on, we needed volunteers, and we had lots of them. In fact, Emily, you said you'd want to volunteer, but perhaps in another year. So this was the cover for the 2019 festival, sorry, 2021 festival. And these are some of our volunteers. Now, it's hard work, but of course they take it easy sometimes. And there's always lots of sewing to be done and fun to be had. The picture on the right-hand side is in the upper, what Jane Austen called the upper rooms. This is the assembly rooms inside, and this is actually the tea room that she describes in Northanger Abbey and also in Book Persuasion. And the left-hand side, it's actually the Mission Theatre inside there. Yes, they try to look as if they're studying. It's all a bit tongue-in-cheek, this lot, but they do have fun, as I said. And of course, you need to keep body and soul together. So there is fine dining, and that's in the pump rooms. We had breakfast there. We had the most gorgeous breakfast in the pump rooms. But there is fine dining and fine dining. Yeah, McDonald's. We do. It's typical in Bath that you go into McDonald's in full Regency dress and nobody bats an eyelid. They don't pay you any attention whatsoever. And as you can see, gin is very important as well. Now, this is another video clip, which probably won't actually work. So let's see if, no, it's not going to. What's that? No. Which is a shame. Yeah. And yeah, I'm going to have to go past that because I can't get it to work. I'll see if I can get it to work, and can I send it to you too at some point, Emily?
Absolutely, yeah. You send us whatever, and I can share it with everyone. I'm sure everybody would enjoy watching it.
Because it's really good. It shows you exactly what goes on. It's so much better than me just showing you pictures and things. But yeah, okay. I'll go on to my next one. Now, of course, the festival will go on. I've said I've retired at the end of October. From May of this year, I've been training up this lovely lady. Her name's Tessa Kerslake, and she's the person that's taking over from me. And that's really essential for it to go on. I would, after all the years that I put into it, it would be awful if it just stopped, but it won't. And my advice to her about the festival is, whatever you do, keep calm and read Jane Austen. Okay, there we go. So I will stop share. No, I'm sorry about that video clip. That's really, I know there's a way that you're supposed to click on something before you start doing anything, and I couldn't find it even looking on my phone just now, but
that's okay. Thank you.
I'll get it to you. Yes, I will get it too.
Thank you. Yes, and we'll definitely share it. So does anybody have any questions? I'm looking through the chat to see if there was anything other than everybody wants to go.
Oh, good. That's what we want to know.
So one question on the chat was, what is the mix of attendees, like from like locals to international and everything? And obviously this last year was a little different because of the pandemic, but what's your typical turnout?
It's usually about 60% is from the UK, 40% from outside the UK. And that's about it. I mean, obviously this year it was more like 80 to 90% was UK. In fact, it was 90% was UK, but usually it's a bit. But those 60% from the UK, there's only about 20% locals, real locals from Bath.
Okay.
So.
And then just, I'm curious, what other countries are like well represented that typically come? Obviously the US and Canada, and I've met a lot of people from other European countries too when I went, but what is kind of the spread that you see?
Well, obviously, as you say, US, Australia, Canada, of course you've met people from Canada.
Yes.
Holland, there's quite a large contingent from Holland that usually come. They usually have a large house that they rent. France, Spain, but yes, Jane Austen is very strong in Moscow. They've got a Moscow Jane Austen Society, and so we've got a couple of them that come from there. So yeah, I don't think there's any part of the world that should. China, perhaps. I don't think we've had very many from China, but we did have somebody from Hong Kong. So
okay,
yeah, all over.
I see
every part.
Right. I see a question from Erna, and she's saying, how would you compare the Jane Austen Festival to the United States JASNA meeting, their annual general meeting. I don't know if you've even been to one. So
I haven't been to one, but I have heard about them. And so I can't really comment on what they are like because I haven't been to one. But I think we're not, I don't know if I can say we're not so serious, because we do take her very seriously, but we're not very, very strict on the costume. So, I mean, provided it looks period, we don't go really strict. We do have speakers, but mostly it's quite light-hearted speakers. The most academics, well, we do have academics as well. I mean, Professor John Mullen is academic, but he has a wonderful way of putting over his ideas about the novels. And Amy Frost, or Dr. Amy Frost, who's our local lady, who is actually head curator at Bath Preservation Trust, which owns the #1 Royal Crescent amongst other buildings. She is an excellent speaker as well, and they're just amusing more than anything else. And that really is, we have to be commercial. We have to actually, we don't have any outside funding. We have funding obviously from the Jane Austen Centre, but not, so that funds the festival director's salary. But the actual putting on of events, they have to break even at least. So we can't make a loss on them. So therefore they have to be popular to everybody. So that restricts on what we can if we wanted to go into something in real depth. And I think JASNA possibly have more serious speakers than we do, or more, shall I say, we call it highbrow. I don't know if the same than we do. It's but that's for the commercial reason. So I don't know if that, I hope that answers the question. So
I think
yes.
It does, and I definitely think, having attended one of each, at least, I would definitely say that it's much more academic at the JASNA, and a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Emily, I had a comment, or maybe for
Yeah.
Jackie, because I've only been to AGMs. I haven't been to Bath, but one of my friends and I were talking about Bath, maybe not this year, not 2022, we're not sure, or 2023, but the question I was trying to decide, I mean, I'm not huge on I like, I have my one gown for the dance every year, the ball that the Jane Austen, the JASNA group does, at the AGM, but it seems like everybody has a lot of costumes and, dresses up every day in different outfits. And it's like a whole different focus than JASNA, which is a lot about talking about Jane Austen and, focusing on the who she is, what she did. But I mean, there's a lot of fun speakers, like Amanda Root came 3 years ago. That was phenomenal. We watched Persuasion with her, which was to die for, so we're all sitting in this big ballroom watching it. And then she talked about her, her journals that she kept during that time, but it was great. But anyway, I was just curious.
Yeah, about the costume thing, we dress up. There are only basically two things that you have to wear costume to. One is the promenade, and one is the masked ball. And then every other event, you don't have to wear costume. It's not necessary. There are some people that like to wear a dress. They like to completely immerse themselves in it and wear costume the entire 10 days. And the stewards wear costume the entire 10 days because it makes it easy for people to spot them. But I don't. I mean, I wear it on the promenade and I wear it at the masked ball, and that's it. And so you don't need a vast wardrobe of costumes. You certainly wouldn't wear them on a walking tour, and some of the daytime events you wouldn't. So yeah, it looks like we're all in costume because those of course take the pretty pictures, but no, we're not in costume all the time, and it's much more relaxed than that.
Thank you.
I see a question from Kate in the chat right now. To what extent is the city or town of Bath government involved in the putting on of the festival?
Absolutely zero. They, if anything, they're a hindrance, which is a dreadful thing to say. But no, the council, Bath City Council, actually that's unfair of me to say that, because they do help. If you do have a problem, they do help. They have insisted that we have road closures now, which is for safety reasons as well, when we put on the promenade. But no, they are not involved at all, apart from we have a meeting with them to tell them how safe we're going to be, and they tell us whether they think we're going to be safe, and then we agree we are going to be safe, and then that's fine. That's how it goes, really. Yeah, so no, they don't.
All right. Not even from the viewpoint of increasing tourism. That was a follow-up from her. No.
No, not at all. No, they don't. There was one time we got we did have, what did they do? They suggested, they gave us something for free. I think they shut the roads for free, but we actually have to pay for the road closures. So it costs what it costs. It actually only costs £318 this year to close the roads.
Wow. Got another question over here in the chat. How early does one need to reserve tickets or whatever if one wants to go?
Right, we have a Festival Friend subscription system, and our tickets go on sale in June, and each event is separately ticketed. And so people can buy as many tickets as they want to, as many things they want to go to, or as few as they want. It's totally up to them. And as I say, the tickets go on sale in June. Festival Friends get usually 2 weeks of being able to buy them before they go on general sale. So it's not one ticket for everything, it's separate tickets. And as I say, it's just what June, July was 4 months beforehand.
And then Kate is asking, do you know the current state of affairs for 4 Sydney Place? She was fortunate enough to stay a few nights there, but not sure what the building is functioning as today.
As far as I know, it's still for holiday lets, but I honestly haven't looked at that. So, but you should be able to Google it, find out if it's holiday lets still. I'm not sure.
Last I saw it was as well.
Yeah.
So unless something happened through the pandemic that shut it down, but that's what I had seen too. Erna's asking, is the Jane Austen Regency World, I'm assuming you're talking about the magazine, Erna, related to the festival.
The Jane Austen's Regency World magazine was started up by Dave Baldock, and then he sold it on to Tim Bullimore, who is Lansdowne Media, and he runs it totally now. So it's not related to the festival now.
Okay. How many, now I know that for like the Promenade, you were showing the numbers of how many people are showing up, but how many people attend the festival? Because not everybody who attends the festival dresses up and does the Promenade. So what do you guys typically get number-wise at the festival?
About 3,500 people, or like 3,500 tickets is what we usually deal with over the 10 days.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. That's incredible.
How many was that? I'm sorry, I missed the number.
Sorry, 3,500 over 10 days.
So then when you reserve to go, if like we were coming from the US, we would need to go get rooms really early, right? That was the other question, I think, to get accommodations.
If I can just quantify that, or qualify that, 3,500 tickets are what we deal with throughout the 10 days. And some people will have, so that's not 3,500 people, but it is 3,500 people, but it's, you know, it might be the same person. Do you see what I mean? But no, there's usually plenty of accommodation. There's an awful lot of accommodation in Bath. So, but yeah, it's a good idea if you want to rent a house or something like that, which is usually the easiest way of doing it. If you want to do several days, then well in advance is a good idea, I guess.
It's wonderful. Anybody else have any questions for Jackie? And feel free, you can put them in the chat, or you can raise your hand, or just unmute yourself. There's not too many of us, and just ask her anything that you have. I want to know some juice. What's like the worst event that you ever had to put on? Like for you, what is the biggest headache?
What do you mean, headache or the worst ever?
Whatever, you just tell me. I don't know all of them. I want to know the juice.
Well, I have to say that the Promenade is the biggest headache because of dealing with the council, but it's the most joy when we're walking through the streets. It's absolutely wonderful, fabulous event. So that's my favorite event, but it's biggest headache. The worst event that we ever put on was something about zombies, where I had put it over to this girl said, I want to do this immersive experience. We'll use the Mission Theatre and it will be about zombies. I can't even remember what it was called now, but they had not prepared, they hadn't rehearsed, they just about had costumes, and they were not actors and actresses, and it was absolutely appalling.
Oh,
so, yeah.
boy.
So if anybody wants to make me shudder, they just say zombies. Yes.
I'm assuming this was related to the Pride and Prejudice and zombies somehow.
No,
was the connection.
It was actually well before that. A
Oh,
long time
really?
before that, because there seemed to be something that people were doing in the cities where you'd meet up and you'd go on a treasure hunt or something, and they wanted to do a zombie hunt within the theatre, and it sounded like a good idea at the time, but they didn't do anything with it, and they didn't have a script or anything. It was terrible, absolutely terrible. And they did a matinee and an evening performance, and I just couldn't believe it. But anyway, so you learn. Oh, I did have some very bad singers once as well, but yeah, I couldn't stay and listen to them. They were terrible. And then, but that was my thoughts, because one lady came out and said, "Oh, that was so good," and I thought, "Oh, thank goodness you thought it was good, because I thought it was terrible."
Maybe she's tone deaf.
Maybe. Oh dear, yes, it was. Yeah. You have to be very careful, because what one person thinks is going to be wonderful, actually sometimes isn't what everybody likes at all. But yeah, yes, that was quite interesting.
Oh,
Fortunately, not too many disasters.
right. Now, I know you've met a lot of amazing people from the Jane Austen world, from actors and actresses to authors to family members or distant family members of Jane Austen. So is there a favorite person, or the best of the best that you've met that you're just like, I got to speak with or work with or do something with?
Well, Adrian Lucas is great fun. I've done the most work with him, and it was the first time he came, where we just literally we had all these he did duologues with his partner Caroline Langrish, and we had the pieces of paper, and there were two budding actors as well with me, and he literally passed it all out. He said, "We used to do this," and you did, and sort of tearing up the bits of paper, because we did all the speeches on separate pieces of paper, and passing it out, and they literally did it there and then that evening. They hadn't seen it or rehearsed it or anything, but just did it, and it was the creative process of putting something like that together. It was great fun. So that's of the well-known. I was lucky enough this week to meet Emma Thompson, so I'll just drop that one in. She came into the Jane Austen Centre. She came into the Jane Austen Centre on Wednesday, and then she came back on Thursday. She's obviously on a shopping trip in Bath with her daughter, and she came in on Thursday with a bag full of delicious cakes for us, and then signing autographs, taking selfies, all sorts of things. And I was just starstruck, and just said hello, and she said hello, and that was it. But I left it to Tessa, who's taken over from me, to try and get her number and all that stuff.
So did you eat her cake?
Absolutely, it was fabulous. Absolutely fabulous. Yes.
I think I saw that on social media. So wasn't there some pictures distributed this week? Yeah, she was standing with some black outfit, and yeah.
Yeah.
And what's the big guy is that the guy Martin that does the door of?
That was Jacob that's with her, I think.
Jacob, and there was whoever does the door greeting. Yeah, the big.
There's Martin does the door greeting. He's got white whiskers. But if it's the tall guy, that was Jacob. Yes.
Okay, I think it might have been both. He was with the group of people. She was with multiple people anyway in the picture.
Yeah, she had a funny hat on at one time as well.
Yeah, I think she had that on. So she was initially I didn't recognize her, but then I looked more closely.
Yeah, she's really lovely. Couldn't be, such a lovely lady. Oh, somebody's, bless you, whoever that was.
Sorry, that was in my household. I'll tell. Multiple listeners here.
So I know you were mentioning earlier, talking about your husband making dinner for you tonight. Did he support you throughout all of this, the last 20 years of doing something with the Jane Austen Festival? Did he go with you? Did he dance with you? Does he dress up ever? Or is he just like, no, thank you?
My husband has never dressed up and never will. But when we did the Guinness World Records, we had to have a timer. Now he's a hockey coach. Well, in his part-time, he does hockey coach. He plays, well, you call it field hockey, I think. Plays hockey. In fact, if you cut him in half, it says hockey around the middle, I'm sure. But so he knows how to use a timer. So he timed the 2 minutes that we had to stand there for the Guinness World Record. So that's his claim to fame. But no, he supported me throughout. I mean, it just, everything runs fine at home. Make sure there's a nice large glass of red wine when I get in.
That's what he's supposed to do.
That's what he's supposed to do. Does the washing if I need. No, he's great. He's absolutely brilliant. He's very good. We support each other.
Yeah.
But no, you will never, ever get him in any Regency costume ever. No, my son had no choice when he was young.
Right? He was still a minor. He had to do his
He was still a minor, so yeah, he was in costume. Yeah.
Did he ever do it again, show up in costume again as he got older, your son, or no?
When we did this, because we did attempt this Guinness World Record a second time, and he changed at the assembly rooms. He said, I am not walking through the city in Regency costume. So no, I won't get him in Regency costume now ever.
Kate has a question in the chat asking, what is typically the male to female ratio at the festival? I know here in America, it was kind of shocking when I went to the UK. You know, the majority of people showing up to Jane Austen events here tend to be female, but it's much different over there. So what is your guys' typical ratio?
Yeah, I mean, we do have a few men coming along. Unfortunately, there's not enough, but then that was the same in Jane Austen's day. But no, it's what is the ratio? It's probably about 70% women, 30% men, I would think, and that might be being generous. There are obviously some things where they'll go and other things, you know, that they just won't. But yeah, and it tends to be. No, we do have a few single ones. You met Jag, didn't you? Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, it's. What I want to get out there to men is that they should come along to these dances, because there's all these lovely ladies and it's the best place to meet them. Jag has an absolutely hilarious time. He has a wonderful time. You know? But yeah, they really should. But yeah, that's about it. But it's seen as being a female type thing.
Yeah. Well, it didn't stop me from dancing with other women because I was going to dance one way or the other.
Well, that's exactly it. It doesn't matter. You know, it really doesn't matter.
Yeah, the country dances are so different than, you know, like the ballroom style dances nowadays. Like you can dance with whomever. It's wonderful.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you, Kate, for your question. Any other people want to ask any questions of Jackie? Either in the chat or just unmute yourself or raise your hands. So I did ask you your worst event to put on, and what's your favorite?
Always the theatrical that comes on the last Saturday with the Natural Theatre Company, because I come up with an idea and I chuck it at them, and then they come up with the actual event, and it's usually not anything like I imagined it would be, but it's far better than I could ever imagine.
Yeah, so they're an improv group, yes?
They are an improvisation. Well, they're actually what they call street theatre. So they go out, they basically out in the street. Obviously, they're hired to do that, and they entertain people in the street, just take on a character role. And this is really the first time they've been indoors is for the festival. But they also, some of their actors are the Romans at the Roman baths here in Bath as well.
Oh, so okay.
Sort of bread and butter work for them. They go and pretend to be a centurion or a lady of leisure in Roman Bath. So, yeah, but they are tremendous. They are terrific actors.
Yes, they're very funny. If anyone has never seen any of their shows, they are very funny and very tongue-in-cheek.
Bit
yes,
naughty,
Kate.
Some of them.
Yes. Kate, yes.
Sorry, I got tired of typing.
That's okay.
But I mean, clearly all of your efforts, they're huge undertakings and very much enjoyed by many. And for someone to step into your shoes and to take on those responsibilities will be huge. And I know you've been training the lovely lady there that you had shown. If for whatever reason she were to say, I just can't, it's too much, do you have other folks that you're confident would continue it, or do you feel like you would have to step back in and continue on?
I told you once, Jackie, I want your job when you retired and you never called me.
I want yours. I'd like to work in the zoo. Yeah, I'm pretty confident she'll do it. She's a toughie. She's had some tough jobs in the past. She might be quite young, but I'm getting on a bit. I can't redo it. But yes, but as far as anybody else goes, well, there is somebody that I think ought to have done it, but that's Rachel Beswick, who was my assistant. But for whatever reason, she decided she didn't. Perhaps she knew too much about it. I don't know. But certainly, it's not as if I've left Tessa on her own. I've said she can pick the phone up to me whenever. We've got a good relationship. I'm sure she's going to do fine. So let's hope it goes on she can do it for 20 years as well. She's got the age in her anyway.
I think there would be a large outcry if for whatever reason it didn't continue, right? Like, I think there'd be a lot of folks that were, what?
Yeah, which is absolutely amazing. It's just incredible that makes you speechless, really.
Yeah,
it's good. Yeah, we won't let it go. It'll continue.
So are you planning on attending next year, 2022, either as a steward or just as for fun?
Not as a steward. They work far too hard. That's too much hard work, that is. I'd probably go along to something, or I might do something. It depends. I have suggested something to her, but not in costume, I have to say. But yeah, it depends. Yeah, it'd be nice to walk in the promenade and not be leading it.
Right.
That'd be quite fun.
It was fun. It's quite the experience for those of you who haven't been to the promenade before. There's an energy walking along the streets with the crowd that's just, I don't know, it's just very hard to recreate anywhere. I've never felt like that anywhere else. It was wonderful. Erna's asking a question. What do you do regarding Jane Austen other than the festival? Do you read, do you study, etc.?
What, Jane Austen wise or personally otherwise? Is that just Jane Austen wise?
Yeah, personally, yeah. Since you're retired now, are you gonna like walk away from Jane Austen, or are you gonna stay engaged with the the whole genre reading?
Yeah, she's my mate. I had her before the festival came along. Yeah, she's part of my family, most definitely. No, I had in lockdown. I started writing a book, academic book. I've done quite a lot of study of Bath. My master's was all around Bath, and so I'm putting that together, and together with the novels and Bath, and doing something on that. But I won't tell you anymore because it's my idea. But there's that academically wise, but I'm always studying something anyway. So.
Wow, cool, thank you.
Well, when that comes out, Jackie, and that sounds fantastic, you'll have to let us know. We'll share it amongst our members, and maybe we'll sneak you in for another talk about your new book that you're going to be putting out. So. Elizabeth is asking, is there a website about the festival? And I know there is, but I don't know it off the top of my head. Do you?
Right, it's obviously www.janeaustenfestivalbath.co.uk.
Wonderful. And Kate is asking, is there any involvement, I'm assuming with the festival, with Lucy Worsley? Has she done anything or maybe planning on doing anything?
Oh, dear old Lucy. Yes, I've met her. She had a book come out and I did meet her. I did ask her if she'd come and do it, but I think she's quite a good one for Jane Tapley to have at the Theatre Royal, because she's such a good interviewer, Jane Tapley, and it's quite a nice place to go. So unfortunately she wasn't available to do it that time, but they may get Lucy along at some point. Yeah.
Wendy, who also works at the zoo, by the way, I'm going to throw her under the bus for that one with me. What do you think would surprise Americans upon visiting Bath? Do American festival goers tend to find Bath smaller than we imagine, larger?
I don't know. What surprised you about Bath, Emily?
It was the only city I've ever been to that is so uniform isn't a good word, but it's just the style is the same throughout. Like I got a little bit lost my first couple times because every street looks the same because they use the same architecture. Everything's just it's absolutely gorgeous. It was a little, the city center was smaller than I guess I expected, but again, it's a different time period when everything was being built. There were only, you know, horses and carriages and people walked. There were no real vehicles at the time. And the streets are very small, at least when you're in the city center. As you get further out, it becomes a little bit more and more like, you know, the suburbia towns that I guess you kind of expect to see. But it's beautiful. It's one of the most beautiful places I've ever visited. And the Jane Austen Festival is absolutely incredible. I went there all alone my first time. Jackie and all of her stewards took me under their wing and I got to know every single one of them and their names by the end. I thought that was probably the best experience I've ever had, is actually traveling alone to it, because I met so many people. So that was fantastic for me. But do other Americans say anything else from their experiences to you that they just...
No, it's very difficult for me to gauge. I mean, I know that from a personal point of view, when I went to New York, having seen so much about New York in various programs on the telly and films and all that, I thought, gosh, this is like a film set, because everything's here that that you see on the telly. But yes, so whether or not I suppose some of you have seen Bridgerton, have you?
Oh yes. Oh yeah, I don't know too many people that, well, some people just didn't like certain things about it.
As my husband calls it, bonkerton.
Yeah, well, if you had kids in the room, you had to get them out of there quick. So within 10 minutes, people were shutting their, their TVs off and going, "Oh my goodness, shut your eyes."
But I mean, a lot of that was filmed in Bath, so you get the idea of things like that. But I don't know. I suppose the thing with Bath is it's the centre section of it is actually very small. Wherever you are within the centre section, you're only sort of about 20 minutes walk from one end to the other, really. But it is spread further than that. It's about 86,000 people live in Bath, but
yeah. I went there a few times. I thought it was, I thought that we stayed one time as a family trip, and we stayed up at that university. They had like rooms. It was during like a summertime, I guess, so we could stay in the dorms of the, I guess it was like a, like an executive, center there. They had some rooms that they were pretty fixed up, that you could use. So we stayed there. It was really fun. I agree that walking was the best part of it. You could walk so many places. We did take the bus up and down that hill after a while, because it was really painful going up that hill at the end of a day. But that was really fun. And then going to the center and then the one thing I didn't do, I guess I should do sometime, is go into the baths, and actually go in there, because I went with the JASNA trip one year. The JASNA US does the trip, and Bath is one of the major stops, and you walk around and you do the Abbey, and they had performances and stuff, but we didn't actually, and we did the pump room, tea in the pump room, but you had to actually separately go to the baths, and we didn't do it as a family either. So yeah, anyway, that's what I would do probably.
It seems like in the books that it must be very small, because everyone's always running into other characters. But you wonder if it's kind of like some of the TV shows that are in New York City, where people just conveniently run into each other, but that would never really happen.
Strangely enough, you do go. I mean, I invariably bump into people I know in the city when I'm wandering around, and I know a few people, but I don't know everybody by any means. But maybe
when there's a large crowd in the pump room, how many people would be hanging out in there when Catherine Morland first goes and and meet Henry Tilney. How many people fit in that kind of a space?
I'm just trying to think. When we have the masked ball in there, we have, I mean, if it was really a crush, it would be 300 people, I should think.
Oh, okay, wow.
But that's, you wouldn't, I mean, she doesn't dance in the pump rooms, but she promenades in the pump rooms. So that would ebb and flow throughout the day.
Right.
You wouldn't, they wouldn't have had 300 people in there at that point, I wouldn't have thought.
No.
Yeah, probably about 150 at that amount, you know. But they would come in, drink the waters. Take the waters means drink the waters, and then you know, disappear, meet up with people, whatever. Yeah.
So since you
But
brought
nowadays
them, oh, go ahead.
sorry, nowadays there is a restaurant in the pump rooms. It's not free flowing. You can't walk backwards and forwards.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So since you brought up drinking the waters,
Yeah.
Jackie, have you drank them and what did you think of them?
Oh, it's absolutely delicious. Everybody should have it, of course.
Really?
No,
Think it was
they're
that
vile.
very metallic, as I
Absolutely
recall.
disgusting.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Oh.
It's,
I imagine
Yes.
it tastes like, the water. I grew up in Florida, and there's a fountain of youth. Supposedly Ponce de Leon found a fountain of youth that was some sort of spring that they claimed had great curative powers, and you could drink some of the water, and it tastes like water, very minerally, and
yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah. Yes, it is sort of minerally. It's a long time since I've tasted any. I haven't sort of felt the need to.
it works, I guess.
As I recall, once was enough for a lifetime.
Yeah, I'll have to go and taste it again, I suppose.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Well, I guess you don't need it. Once was enough.
The minerals are the health inducing part of the water.
Right.
Yeah, I think one of the things in the 18th century was they would drink a lot of water, which would flush out the system, and they were usually put on a very strict diet as well. So if anybody went there with any sort of ailment and the doctor prescribed lots of water, which is what they generally did, and if they had gout or anything like that, and they were on a strict diet as well, then of course they got better.
Mm-hmm.
If they were stopping drinking alcohol and not having too much in the way of rich food, and they were flushing out their system, then they got better.
Sure.
Yeah.
Maybe walking around a little more because you're seeing and being seen.
That's right. Yeah. Or being carried from A to B in your sedan chair.
Yeah.
Have you ever been carried in one, Jackie? I have seen them.
Yeah. I have. They don't carry people in them now.
No, I know.
No, they don't. No, but yeah, there's several different sorts actually. There's the sort of taxi type ones, and then there's the very grandiose ones that were privately owned, and then there's a very fat, squat-looking thing that used to be used just for sick people going to and from the baths. So yeah, it's an interesting subject, sedan chairs.
I think they could load you up in your room and carry you out the door and then bring you all the way back into your room and put you in bed.
That's absolutely correct, because some of the houses have wide enough staircases so the sedan chairmen could actually carry you all the way up to your bedroom, and that's quite handy.
Now, how did you get into this line of work? I know a little bit about your history just because we've talked, but I'm sure other people would be interested in what was your career path that led you to end your career as the Jane Austen Festival Director?
What to get into? Well, I had a boy at 24 years ago, and prior to that, I worked for when I was in hospitality. I was a secretary, PA. Also I was a systems administrator for a set of accountants solicitors in Queen Square. And then I left to have Matt, my son, and then went back into part-time work. Didn't want to do anything PA or anything like that. And I started on the open top buses. And I worked for the Bath Chronicle. In fact, I had 3 jobs. I was do 2 evenings for the Bath Chronicle where I was setting adverts. I had once, well, a couple of days a week, I was on the open top buses tour guiding, and I did walking tours. And then I did walking tours for the Jane Austen Centre, and that was in 2000, 2000 when I started with them. So yeah, so my son literally changed my life. So
well, I'm glad he did.
it was all office work before then, but it was all sensible because it helped with doing the Jane Austen Festival, because I'd done events with office work and stuff. So.
Wonderful. And so what are your plans now? I know you said some people have been joining in late, so you're currently working one day at the Jane Austen Center, one day at Bath Abbey, and I know you're retired, but what are your plans in your retirement?
Research and writing. That's all, really. Take it easy.
Good.
except not take it easy. Not really.
Jackie, you should come over and do one of the sessions when you get your book done and published. Come do one of the sessions at the AGM.
Well, maybe, but
this history too.
You're a frightening lot, JASNA, though. You take everything very seriously, don't you?
Well, some people do. Then there's others of us that sit and read fan fiction all day and think that's fun.
I'm super intrigued by the titles and the pictures of a lot of those little plays and things that were being performed. I would love to see more of that here, as opposed to just faithful reproductions of the works. I would love to see some more fun spins on Austen's work.
Yeah, well, Austen had a very good sense of humor. That's her books are very funny. So it's
yes,
yeah. Hopefully, she would approve.
I think so. Yeah, I've been in some local productions, adaptations of her plays, and I feel like it can be hard sometimes to get the comedy right, because some people don't get that sort of more subtle comedy. They want to ham it up.
Yeah,
I feel like we need to just have some plays where hamming it up is what's called for.
Oh, wonderful. Anybody else have any questions? Oh, I'm looking on the chat right now. Linda, she's just asking, has anyone been to the Topping and Company in Bath? It's a bookshop. I'm hoping it didn't. Is it still there?
Well, it's moved. It's moved to it's right close to Bath Abbey actually now. And it's in a stunning old building in York Street, I think it is. But it's absolutely gorgeous. I mean, it was up at is it Edgar Buildings or Paragon up at the top of Broad Street? But it's now in the centre of the city. So if you get your coach drops you off in the centre of the city, Toppings is not far, and it's absolutely beautiful. I haven't actually been in, I've just because I haven't had time, but that's one of my things to go and see. Yeah.
Wonderful. So, and do you live actually in Bath, or are you just on the outskirts?
I live in a place called Frome.
Okay.
And it's 14 miles from Bath, so it's pretty much up and coming now, apparently.
Okay.
But we've been here. I've been here 34 years, something like that. Yeah. So it's nice. There's a bit more countryside. The thing with Bath is, and you have to be right on the outskirts of it in order to have a bit more land around and be able to park easily, because parking in Bath is not fun.
I can imagine. I walked everywhere. I didn't even bother.
Yeah.
I can imagine. Oh. Any other questions? Oh, Kate was asking, is that the tiny one, the Toppings? Was that the tiny little, was it a small bookstore?
No, that would be Mr. B's she's probably thinking of, at the back of Jolly's.
Okay.
Mr. B's. But Toppings is one where they have lots and lots of people come and talk about their books there.
Okay.
And it's, yeah.
Yeah. I'm curious of our group, how many people have been to the Jane Austen Festival? You can raise your hand, you can unmute yourself. I'm just kind of curious how many people out there have. I know some of our members have, but I don't know if they're here today. So no one's speaking out. All right.
Oh, well, hopefully they will.
Hopefully they will now. They'll come meet you if you show up.
Yeah.
Now you don't have to. So
No, I don't have to.
Oh,
I think many of us have been to Bach, but not necessarily the festival.
right.
So, but yeah, beautiful.
So what do you think Jane Austen would think of the festival, Jackie?
I think she'd find it very funny, actually. Yeah. I think, yeah. I don't think she'd be horrified. I think she'd just be maybe amused. I'd like to think she'd be amused. But yeah, interesting. Yeah, I mean, all the fuss that's made of. I mean, she wrote the books, and she liked to entertain her family with them, and she was glad of the money that she made from them. So I don't think I don't know whether she'd have liked fame particularly, but I think she'd have enjoyed the fact that people were enjoying her work in such a way.
She would have gone home afterward and written a book about it.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, she would.
Oh, that's wonderful. Well, thank you so much for sharing everything, Jackie. Is there anything else that you want to tell us about? Any fun stories you have? Anything?
Not that I can think of, no.
Okay.
But I mean, how do you squash 20 years into an hour and a bit? You know, it's impossible.
Right.
So, what I will do is I'll give you decent copies of both of those films.
Okay.
I'll send you a Google link.
Yeah, thank you, because I don't think the Facebook quality was very good.
No, and then you can maybe share them with your people and
Thank you.
your group, and they can see them properly. Gives them a better idea.
Right. Anybody have any final questions for Jackie? She's probably ready for dinner.
It smells wonderful, I tell you. Yeah.
Wonderful. All right. Well, thank you all so much for coming today to hear her talk. Thank you so much, Jackie, for agreeing to do this for us today. It was absolutely wonderful. And thank you for allowing us to record it as well, so we can share it with the few members who weren't able to make it today, who really wanted to see it. So thank you very, very, very much.
It's all right. Maybe one day I'll get to Phoenix and see your zoo, because it looks
Don't
great.
come in the summer.
Why? Is it too hot?
Oh, yes. Come between November and February. That's about it. The rest of the year is miserable. Unless you feel like turning red and baking. So
you don't want to see what Emily and I look like in the summer.
Hot, sweaty, gross. Don't bother with makeup. Thank you very much. Everybody's saying thank you in the chat in case you haven't seen this.
This was really fun.
Good.
Wonderful.
Lovely.
Yes, it was lovely to see you. You're looking rather happy and relaxed right now, Jackie, I have to say. Retirement is doing you very well. But unfortunately, so many times when I saw you at the festival, you were just, I have things to do. So always frazzled. And now it's nice to just be relaxed.
Yeah.
So
yes. Yes, I shall have to go along to something. Well, she'll have to put something decent in so I could go.
Right.
Yes, just to enjoy it, because you don't enjoy it so much when you're organising it.
Right.
Yeah, you usually enjoy it when it's finished, which is a bit of a shame, really.
Right. Yeah, you'll have to just go and visit it for once and not have to do any work.
No, that's it. Absolutely. Yeah.
Oh, now people want tea and scones. They're ready for tea and scones. Oh, well,
with jam and cream? Do you do jam and cream with your scones?
Yes. Isn't that the way you're supposed to? Okay, now, so Jackie, you have to tell us what goes on first, the cream and then the jam, or the jam and then the cream?
That depends on where you come from, if you're Cornish or whether you're from Devon.
Okay.
Personally, I put jam on first, then I put cream on top.
Then put cream.
Oh,
I know plenty of people that do it the other way around.
I put cream first.
Yeah, I know. Let's see. And I can't remember whether it means I'm from Cornwall or I'm from Devon, but one of them has a Cornish way and one's the Devon way.
Either way, it tastes delicious.
Absolutely, it does. Yeah.
Yes, it does.
Right.
Well, thank you so much, Jackie, for everything. Appreciate it, and all the lovely pictures that you shared. And thank you for sharing those videos with us. I'll definitely share it with everyone who attended today. So
yeah. Okay, then. I'm going to say bye-bye because my dinner's ready.
Bye.
Okay, enjoy your dinner. Thank you, Jackie.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Bye.
much.
That's a pleasure. Bye.
Bye.